Alright, so I think this is working. This is first time I've used a YouTube live stream, so it's probably going to be just well, I don't know. I think I've got it. It seems like it's working out alright at the moment. I was going to use Twitch earlier, but I feel for the moment I'd like to keep that for game streams or something. And while YouTube is where I've already got all of my animation tests, I may as well do this here. But I've got afternoon free, and I thought, why not have a little play around in Blender, try and model something cool, and maybe use this as the opportunity to teach some people some stuff about how to do certain techniques, how to create scenes the way I do, and just, well, I just thought it could be a bit of fun. Alright, so I want to try something simple and abstract, something like pretty basic, but not like too basic. I think a good thing to do would be to try and make something with like a lot of concrete type surfaces and a few metallic ones. That's always kind of interesting. And I apologize if I'm going pretty fast with how I'm doing everything here. This is more just, the goal here is more just like having it be kind of just chill and just like getting to see my creative process at work, really. Plus I don't have the screencast keys add-on, so yeah, I'm just gonna start with having this sort of floor area over here. I've already got a whole bunch of preset settings arranged, and I think what I want to do first is try and figure out what kind of shot I want to go for. Now at the moment I'm thinking something like this. I'll put this up here. Yeah. And then yeah, that looks good. Now I want to make a shot where it's sort of like you're looking down a corridor or something. I think that could look really nice. So that's the one. Now I'm just going to extend this out about 3 times, and maybe extend it this way, like that. Not that way. There we go. Let's check that's lined up. It's not, but oh, who cares? Should look alright. I'm just going to bring this over here and bring it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Now if I get the camera, I'm going to put it here, rotate it this way, and bring it back over to here. Now I know lots of people like to keep their, it's called the pass part out. I've for probably over 7 years now, I've been meaning to Google why it's called that. But this determines the opacity of the viewport of the camera and everything around it. I like to keep it at fully opaque, just because I prefer the way that looks. It gives me a better way of judging my shots. I'm going to put this down here. We'll lower it a little and lift it up like that. I think that could look really cool. Let's just bring this wall up a little bit. There we go. I think I want to add some other walls It should be simple enough. Just... yeah, there we go. I think I'll move the camera back just a little bit, just so these are kind of visible above it. Alright, now I'm switching over to viewport shading. Everything's going to look like a mess right now, because let's go over to this one instead. So first of all, I want to make this ground have a kind of metallic texture to it. To just turn up the metallics later. Put the roughness down a little bit so it's kind of nice and reflective. Let's put that to 2. And then make it a little darker, just a little bit. And that looks about right. Next I'm going to get the light source, change that to a sun, and put the brightness down to 3. Should do it. Just see how this looks. This, I don't really like the way that looks. It's not bright enough. So we're just gonna put this up here. And I'm going to need to use an HDRI. But that's cool. I like HDRIs. So change it to change the color of the world environment to an environment texture. And if I go find my HDR folder, I think this will be a good one. That's good, but I think there's not enough black levels, there's not enough depth to it, so I want to go with something more like this. Yeah, that looks better. I'll just flip over to the shading tab. And if I go to world, press Ctrl T using the Node Wrangler add-on, I can alter the, not that one, I can alter the rotation of, I'm gonna go like that. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay. I apologize if I seem to just be rambling myself a little, rather than actually saying anything of explaining my creative process, explaining what I'm doing. But then, I mean, I'm more just trying this out, seeing how it goes. I've wanted to make Blender tutorials in the past for years and years, but I've never really sat down to do it, or felt like I had the appropriate skills for that sort of thing. Being able to explain in an informative way, so I'm just trying to narrate everything I'm doing here, or all of the main things I'm doing here. The nitty-gritty of individual buttons and keyboard shortcuts I'm sort of not going to focus on, just because it's second nature to me now. That's something I barely even think about. But then also I think focusing more on the principles of like shot structure and framing, I think that's something that's a lot more universal and just a lot more interesting to look about. I'm going to make this be a concrete type material. Let's apply it to this one. Apply it to all of these. I know this is probably a really slow method that no one should be using for how to do it, but I'm just doing that. Alright, now we're going to start texturing these objects. We start with noise texture and a color ramp. Plug the color into factor and color into base color. And we should get this nice sort of cloudy texture. Now I'm just going to open up the node wrangler, switch the texture coordinates to object, or maybe to normal. One of them is going to, okay, let's go object, man. Oh, okay, better idea. I'm just going to object mode. I'm going to apply the scale on all of these objects, and that will fix all those errors with the texture. Yeah, that's better. Okay, back to the shading tab. We've got the detail all the way up to 16, and the scale down to something more like 2. Then I'm just going to make the difference in brightness and darkness a little less obvious, make it kind of just more of a general grey, rather than gradiating from black to white, and I think that looks pretty good. Now, I'm just going to, this over here, I'm going to get a vector bump node, I mean. Plug the normals into normals. This isn't going to do anything at first until I put a color ramp over here. Plug the factor to factor, color to height, and we should get some very drastic changes. Yep, there we go. Now I just need to, first of all, we'll drop the strength down to 0.2. Looks better. Let's just crunch it up a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. Let's just go 0.1. And I'm going to use a newer feature that they have as of some of the more recent Blender versions. I'm just going to push this to be much more of just noise rather than the sort of swirlier, larger shapes. I'm going to make it look a little more like this. And then strength back to 0.2. Now we get that really nice grainy look where it's catching the light. And that just looks really good. Okay, now for the moment, I'm just going to go back. Let's switch it over to the non-rendered view, so it's a little easier to look at. And I'm just going to add a light bevel. Just really, really little one. Yeah, just enough it'll catch the light a little bit on the edges. I'm not going to do it to these ones, because you're not going to be seeing the edges of them. So I only really need to do it to these ones here. Alright, let's see how that looks. That probably looks pretty good. I think it might. Yeah, it looks alright. Let's just wait until the blender starts working. I can zoom in. There we go. Alright. It's really, really subtle, and you can barely see it, but you just get a little bit of a difference between the shadows over here and the highlights over there. You just get this tiny little line. I don't know if it'll even show up in the stream because of the quality. I'm going to have to zoom in really far. We'll see this. But there's like just a little line. It's just enough for the light to hit it. and for it to stand out a little bit. In fact, I think I'm going to make it a little bigger. 0.05. That's probably too big, but this is just a test for now. I just want to see how it looks. And let's try upping the segments a little bit. I'll smooth it out a little. No, it looks good. Okay, I think while I've got everything so grainy, I don't need to have the detail that high. So let me just put this down from 16 to something like 5. And that looks good enough, I'd say. I don't need it to be much higher detail than that. Now, I believe another texture I can add is the brick texture. Now, I'm going to be using a mix RGB to mix the bricks into the texture of the noise. And when I get this looking right, it should look pretty good. It should being the ultimate word. I've seen this done once, and I didn't quite follow that tutorial as well as I should have. So this could look bad, but, well, I'm hoping it turns out. Okay, now, let's just plug vector to vector, so we know it's mapping the same way. And let's switch it over to be just completely doing the bricks. They are very, very, very tiny. So I want to put the scale to 0.1. Yeah, that looks good. Let's put the strength up a bit. I think that looks about right. Now, if I put the brick width to 1 and the row height to 1, they should look up. And put the offset all the way to 0. We should have a lot more of a grid-like form, which is what I want. And I'm just going to try and make the bricks a little bit smaller. That looks good. Maybe just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now I'm going to make the mortar. Okay, it needs to be 0.01. Make the mortar smaller, like that. I'd say that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to change this to multiply. And we should get a nice, beautiful noise. And our brick-like text. Yes! Alright, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Okay, let's just put this down a little bit. 3, I think. Yeah, that's good. Oh, let's try 7. Too much. Unless I was to lower. Yes, looks even better. Okay. Now, what was this other texture that you're supposed to use? Do I even remember what it is? It's not magic, is it? No. Checker? I think it's checker. It's not. Environment gradient, IES, image, magic, Musgrave? No. Point density, sky, Voronoi. It could be the Voronoi. No. I don't trust that one. Magic. Let's try magic. I'm just going to do a simple thing of plugging this into the base color to see how that looks. And it looks like that. No, it's not this one. Let's try checker, just because I don't think I've ever used that one before. I think it's that one. There's one that does this, and I just want to hope that it's this one. This is just going to be a checkerboard, isn't it? It is just a checkerboard, okay. I'm looking for noise, point density, side. Okay, it could be Voronoi. It's not Voronoi. It's Voronoi? Musgrave? No. Oh, unless it is. But why can't I already does oh, one? Dimension 1 0 detail 0. It's not that. Voronoi wave checker brick. It's not, it can't be that one. It's not that one. IES? No. If not, I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna look one more time. If I can't find it, I'm just gonna have to give up and move on to some other part of Miranda. Alright. Oops. Okay. Moving on. Yeah, I'm just gonna switch this back. Let's do another part of it. Alright. Gonna have graininess back. Just make it a tiny bit grainier. Alright, so try to lay out. And I think what I want to do is first of all, oh yes, that's right, that's what I wanted to do. I'm going to get a mix shader, like this one, plug it in here, and I'm going to add a bit of extra surface detail to the join between the walls and the floor. And I can do that with a ambient occlusion, color ramp, color to factor, color to color. And if I just crunch this up a little bit, we get this nice little grungy tone on the edge of it. It just gives that natural look that surfaces have when they're up against another surface. It's something that you'll see all over different walls and bricks in real life, and as much as this is an abstract scene, it's something that will just make it look a little nicer. I'm going to copy this and add it onto here as well. Before I copy this color, add a multiplier shader, and add it over here. So I'm going to be multiplying this ambient occlusion map over this color. Control C, Control V. There we go. There's probably a simpler way you can do that, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, looks good. So that just gives a little bit of extra, what's the word? A little bit of extra depth. I'm going to put the brightness of this light up to 10. And I'm going to bring the brightness of the world down just a little bit. And I can make that look even better by just upping the contrast a little. And I think I want to play around with adjusting the color for this. So I'm going to get a hue saturation. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get an do I not have it here? Okay, hue saturation it is. Put the saturation up first of all, and then I just want to keep it in the blue tones. Something like that. Yeah, okay. Now, time to add something weird. I'm going to get an icosphere. Put the subdivision count a little, so it's a bit smoother. Switch back to here for now. Shade smooth, this up, bring this over here. And I want to give this an emission shader. Set to 10. And give this like a nice cool blue. I think that looks pretty good. So make it just a little bit more intense, just enough that, yeah, that looks better. I think one thing I might try, a subsurf modifier. I want to try something I haven't done before. Of getting a Fresnel color ramp. Where is it? There we go. Factor to factor, color to color. Put this over here. So that put the IOR down to 1.2. And let's bring this all the way up to 20. Okay. And now change around until we get something that looks a little smoother. That doesn't look right, so I'm just going to bring this up into blue spectrum. And I think that looks pretty good. This gives this sort of interesting energy ball kind of effect. I think one more thing I can add is just plug this into a noise texture and factor the color. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to put the noise texture over here, Fresnel here, and I just want a factor to normal. Now, put the scale down, detail up, roughness, no, Yeah, I didn't think this would work. Okay. Let's just leave that like it is for now. Okay, now I'm going to come over here, switch back to this mode, add plane, so up here, use the ocean modifier, which I will set to be just wide enough that it won't meet the edges of this. I think that looks good. Let's lift it up a little bit, increase the, not depth, but size 1, random size, spatial size 50, time, wave scale, that's the one I'm looking for. This wave, choppiness down, more of this ripply pattern. Looks good. Random seed. Okay, now I want to create a particle system. Here, I believe that's the one I want. Viewport display. Oh no, render as object. Object will be the icosphere. And we will emit from vertices. Use modify. Ah, there we go. That's how you do it. Okay, now let's just make these more seed. Let's no. Yeah, blank. Let's put that up a bit. Let's say 5 segments. 2. Viewport display. Now, if you look at this, it should look like that. We want the ocean itself to not be visible in the render, so I'm just going to switch over to the material tab. Put a material called nothing. If I set this to be shadow mode none, and or more simply, I can just turn off rendered and viewport. But that okay. That's not the way to do it then. I will instead change it to a transparent VSDF. Blend mode alpha clip. Now is non-existent. But if I go over here and let's set the time to 0. I'm just going to check I'm using linear keyframes because I wanted to keep indeed I am. And let's skip ahead to frame 120. This to 200. Now let's see how it looks when we play it back. That's crazy. Okay, let's put this to 20 then. See if that looks a little better. It's still a little intense, so I'm going to put this all the way down just to 10. And set the end frame to 120. bring the timeline upwards a little bit, and I want to move this frame back to 0, which means it will loop a lot better. So I want this to loop. Only it's not going to loop because, yeah, right, okay. Now what do I do? Unless I was to have it reach 5 here and go all the way back to 0 there. Which looks a little odd, but I think in the context of this video, this little animation I'm making, I think that's going to look interesting. Scale randomness. Yeah, let's do that. Seed number 1000. Let's just go 500 instead. It's all better. Now, I wish I could. Phases? Even distribution. Random. I actually like that better. I think that looks nicer. No jittering. Size them down a little bit. 2, 3, or 4. Yes. Put the number back up to 1000. Oh, no. Just 500. A little bigger. And now, let's get back here. 1, 0.5, 3. Now we should have a really interesting pattern. Well, let's just switch over to here. I think this is going to look really cool. Only problem is they can all be a little lower down. Yeah, they look too far up. Let's go into there. Make sure none of them are clipping through the ground. They are a little bit, so I'm bring them up just a tiny bit. And then this one and this one. And move up all. There we go. Now that's got this really interesting otherworldly effect. It's reflecting beautifully along the ground. And I think I want to play with the camera a little bit now. Let's just pause that somewhere. Rotate it to take in a little more of the ground. And I think I'm going to go for a square shot. Let's go 1080 by 1080. Yeah, looks good. Video, so I'll put render percentage down. Zoom out a little and see how that looks now. Once Blender responds again. Okay. Rotate it a little more in this direction. Zoom it in a little bit. Rotate it down a little. I can be doing this over here. Let's also just bring these up a little higher. And I think just make everything a whole lot simpler, I'm just going to put a roof up here. Let's just hope that doesn't mess with the shadows too much, and it does. So let's give this the same texture as glowing balls. In fact, let's give it a different one. Make this mission go up to 20. And let's bring it down to a deeper blue. Yeah, that looks good. Now, I've got a sun object over here, which I'm just going to bring in its face that way. This might look terrible, because it'll screw up my lighting, and it does. So let's just instead put something like that. And bring the brightness down to 3. Let's give it a tiny bit of a yellow tone, just to give it that kind of sunsetty look. And then we need more lighting inside the scene, so I am going to add an area light, which can go up here. And there. Let's put the area light up to 1000. Make it a little bigger. And I want it to be catching on this wall over here. About 3000. That looks better. I just want to double check my framing. You can do this just by turning on the composition guides. I like to go by the rule of thirds. Something like that looks good. Also turn on the limits for the camera while I'm here. Let's bring those back to something about there. Let's toggle on depth of field in the viewport, and let's just get this to be a little depthier. I know that's not a word, but and yeah, let's put this to 0.1. It's really worth it for the amount of clarity I would lose. Let's put it to 3. I say I'm just going to leave it. I won't use it. One last thing I think I'll do is I just want to add a bit of a cloudy texture to the ground. Give it an almost water-like look. Okay. Let's make it just a tiny bit shinier. 0.15. Yeah, that looks better. Add in a vector, bump, normal, and a noise texture. I'm not going to bother with a color ramp here because I don't think I'm going to be doing anything that will majorly affect it. Or majorly involve using one. So I'm just going to plug this in here. Put the strength down to 0.1. Or let's say 0.5, just so it's a little easier for me to see. Let's put that down to 3. Distortion 0.5. Scale. Let's go 20. There's a really almost Death Stranding type look. So let's put that down. 1, 2. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that looks pretty good. Let's go back over here. And one last thing I want to add. Let's switch back to here. Just going to add a cube. Over here. There. Scale it down. Scale it on the Z-axis a little bit. Bring it down into shot. Now I'm going to try it out with this one. But, oh no, it looks good. I'm just going to add some like little floating glowing cubes, or rectangles around the place. Let's just add one like right up here in the front. So it's sinking into the tar. I guess it looks like tar now. Add one over there, make it a little smaller. Give them a bit of variable size, always helps to make your scene look a little deeper. I put one up there, seems further away. Let's do the same with one here, and one there. Move this one over there just a little bit, and this one back there just a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. I'm just going to make these a little bit more cyan, just to line up with the rest of the scene a little bit better. And, let's just see how it looks on its own. Bare bones scene. I think that looks pretty good, but I think I want to try just one more thing. And go up here, add a, am I? I just want to see how the ceiling looks with the liquid metal. I like that you can see the reflections, but I don't like that it makes everything seem a lot more enclosed. I like the brightness that you get with this one. Maybe if I just play around with the camera a little bit. So that it's a little less obvious. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's just move this one all the way to be like less in line of everything else. And I just want to put one down there. So it's peeking up out of the tar. So it makes it feel like they're all floating around in here. Now, I think that looks pretty good. I think I just want to add one last final touch to the concrete by mixing the brick texture in with the actual color itself. That'll make it look a little more like it's like got a grout kind of quality to it, rather than just... Alright, now let's see. Grout should look dark. Maybe? Maybe. Let's just put color to all the way up to white. Color 1, bring that up to white. And I just want to make this be something more like... Just a bit of a darker grey, that's all. Let's just increase the scale of the noise texture a little bit. Put that to 2. I was already on 2. Put that to 4. Yeah, that looks better. And I want this to be even closer to the other one. Just a really, really fine detail. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, I think this is almost done. And I'm going to render it now. I'll probably do some more finishing touches before I probably post a video anywhere. But that was my little stream, just to see how that all went. And I hope anybody watching enjoyed it. Feel free to watch it back later. And I guess I'll be seeing you.